Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the Boulder Valley Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. I'm Reverend Barbara Queeman, the grateful minister of this congregation. I welcome you, whether you are a visitor here or a regular. Welcome to this community that we are creating this afternoon to remember Jim Hagan. Welcome, everyone. A human life is sacred. It is sacred in its being born. It is sacred in its living. And it is sacred in its dying. Welcome, everyone. This is a day of both sadness and celebration. We who have come together here today have come to mourn the passing of Jim Hagan. And yet, we are not only mourning, we are here also to remember and to celebrate Jim's life. Jim was born on September 18th, 1941, and died on May 13th, 2023. He leaves behind many who love him. Many in this room, many online today. In particular, his sister Sharon. Blessings, Sharon. Sharon's sons, Alex Havas and David Havas. David's wife, Haley, and their daughter, Johanna. And perhaps online, his former wife and loyal friend, Tuti Hagan. In addition to others, Mike and Ginger, welcome. Today we will remember Jim Hagan, a man who enjoyed life, who loved being happy, and especially loved being right on with others for over 83 years. At a time like this, my friends, it is good to be together. At a time like this, we need one another as we grieve and as we remember. When we grieve together, we can give one another comfort. For this hour, we are joined together as a compassionate family. In our time together today, our words, our silences, our tears will be offerings to remember. Later in the service, during community remembrances, each of you will have an opportunity here in the sanctuary and online to recall memories of Jim, perhaps to complement other stories you've heard from some of Jim's family and friends earlier in the service. Perhaps something you hear from others will trigger a particular story from you, and I imagine there's a lot of stories out there. You might recall your love for Jim, his zany love for all of life. Indeed, it is good, my friends, to be here together to remember Jim Hagan. In the Unitarian Universalist tradition, our flaming chalice is a symbol of free faith and loving community. I invite David Havas, Jim's nephew, to light today's chalice to symbolize this community that we have created here together today. We light this chalice, which transforms wax into pure light and warmth, to remind us of our own living as we transform the stuff of this world into the love and activity of our daily lives. As we remember Jim here in this service, may today bring forth transformation within ourselves. May the spirit of life represented by this flame burn brightly as we come together to celebrate the life of Jim Hagan. And now, friends, it's time for you to get involved. Our opening hymn is in the teal hymnals. Hymnals should be close by underneath the seats or near your seats. It's number 1007. There's a river flowing in my soul. Let's just double check. Folks have access to the hymnals? Okay, all right. I invite you to rise in body or in spirit for hymn number 1007. There's a river flowing in my soul. Friends, you may be seated. Sharon has chosen this reading by Rabbi Jack Reamer. We cannot pray merely to you, O God, to end war. For we know you made the world in a way that we must find our own path of peace within ourselves and with our neighbor. We cannot pray merely to you, O God, to root out prejudice. For you have already given us eyes with which to see the good in all people, if only we would use them rightly. We cannot merely pray to you, O God, to end starvation. For you have already given us the resources with which to feed the entire world, if only we would use them wisely. We cannot merely pray to you, O God, to end despair. For you have already given us the power to clear away slums and to give hope, if we only would use our power justly. We cannot merely pray to you, O God, to end disease, for you have already given us great minds with which to search out cures and healing, if only we would use them constructively. Therefore, instead, we pray to you, O God, for strength, determination, and willpower. To do instead of to just pray, to become instead of merely to wish. Some words of inspiration from Jack Reamer. Jim Patrick Hagan was born December 18th, 1941, and adopted by John and Marion Hagan in Buffalo, New York. His whole life through, his was a life of spirit, adventure, resilience, active engagement with others, and with sports. One who exerted his political influence, often making good trouble. A person I regret not having had a chance to get to know in person. Jim attended Jesuit schools in Buffalo. He survived polio as a child and became an oarsman, active with the West Side Rowing Club, for example. Early in college, he got involved in Democratic politics and was campaign manager for a local politician. He attended Canisius College, a private Jesuit college in Buffalo, which I didn't know about. I'm glad I learned something about Buffalo, where he was in 1965 the class president. He was active in student council and the rowing team. In 1966, Jim married his high school sweetheart, Elizabeth Tootie Shepard of Orchard Park. Their marriage lasted until the early 90s, and they remained friends through the end of Jim's life. We're not sure if Tootie is online with us today. Tootie, if you are, welcome. Welcome. And you are in this room through your presence online. Welcome. Tootie joined Jim on one of the most significant adventures of his life, an opening up of new worlds, as he described it. Jim was awed by President John F. Kennedy, to the point that he kept a bust of JFK on his desk. Inspired by the president's appeals, in 1966, Jim and Tootie joined the Peace Corps. They worked in a remote village in India for 2 years. Jim, in particular, focused on farm issues and nutrition in this village where raising poultry and production of corn were mainstays of engagement. Tootie taught sewing and homemaking. Jim said this experience changed his life. Through serving an isolated people in an isolated location for the Peace Corps, he said he learned how to break down barriers. Always a bit of a hellraiser anyway, he became even more so through Peace Corps service. As when he complained about poor conditions in the village and nearly got kicked out of town. He also grew from these experiences. Ending Peace Corps service, to return to the States, the couple took a 4-month tour through places like Thailand, Cambodia, Vietnam, and Japan. Back home after their stint in the Peace Corps, Jim benefited from his Peace Corps experience. He learned about the American Institute for Foreign Trade, which was located in Arizona. Subsequently, he earned a degree from this school, which fueled his long career in sales for American Hospital Supply, with whom ultimately he became national sales manager for Canada. Work for the company took him on trips to Ireland and France, among other places. As his career in sales, along with his marriage, came to an end, Jim sought out new adventures. In addition to hiking in the Himalayas, he continued his love for sailing. Around 1990, meeting his future wife and fellow sailor, Carly Dotter of Santa Cruz. Jim preferred small sailboats and single-handed sailing. Yes, especially, friends, get this, especially to cross oceans. He spent 4 years on the open sea, eventually sailing to Sudan, where unfortunately he also contracted dengue fever. During that medical crisis abroad, he was cared for by a Norwegian physician and was inspired to just leave his boat there, leave his boat behind. He made his way back to Santa Cruz, and he married Carly around the year 2000, and she died around 2012. Moving on, Jim entered yet another career at Westonville High School in California, where he taught world history and English as a second language. He also sponsored GBLT studies. He strove to make history relevant. He said he wanted to give everybody a chance for education. He used to assert that it's all about education. In addition then to new professional roles, he also followed another passion, that of growing roses and acquiring new rose bushes to cultivate. He was also an avid walker, several miles a day. He also indulged in music. His favorite composers were that great trio, Ludwig van Beethoven, thus the Beethoven Symphony that you're going to hear in a little bit, following this eulogy. So the trio of Beethoven, George Frederick Handel, and Neil Diamond. Jim also served as a CASA volunteer, CASA, a court-appointed special advocate. CASA volunteers act as court-appointed advocates for children who have experienced abuse or neglect, to offer consistent adult care and presence, and to speak on their behalf in courtroom situations. I can just see Jim in this role, the Jim I've come to know. I can just see him serving CASA. Jim also had a curious fascination with things Irish, thus some of the music choices in this service, and to confirm he was 100% Irish. He was committed also to supporting the Fighting Irish of Notre Dame University, and wearing green t-shirts and shamrock suspenders. And oh yes, his other fascination, which has to do with the little sticky thing in the orders of service, he was fascinated with RBG, Ruth Bader Ginsburg. While living in California, Jim sustained 2 traumatic brain injuries. Thus, he gave up motorcycling and teaching. In 2019, he moved to Boulder County to be closer to family, in particular to his sister Sharon. Always open to expanding his enjoyment with life, he engaged in the outdoors in Colorado, especially on walking trails, aiming for at least 2 miles a day on the footpaths. He also volunteered at Sister Carmen Community Center, for which we have at least one of our members on staff there, where he felt very much at home. He kept in touch with some of his college buddies. While he lived here in Louisville, he also Zoomed every couple months with his India 28 Peace Corps groupies he had served with over 60 years ago. He said they were amazing people. Jim Hagan offered the world that spark of someone always driven to do good in the world. He could talk to anyone, and he readily and successfully invited others into conversation. He wanted to be remembered as a good dude, he said. He never met a stranger. He said that in the 2 languages he spoke fluently, that is English and profanity, the most important words were right on. Admittedly, Jim was not a member of this congregation, Still, while he may not have been a UU in membership, certainly his spirit and his zest for life, his call to stand on the side of justice, and his somewhat out-of-the-box sense of conformity with conventional social norms certainly made him a follower of liberal religion in spirit. Dear Jim, rest in peace. Know always that you will be forever loved. Know always that you will be remembered as a good dude. May all this be so. And as I mentioned, Beethoven was one of Jim's favorite composers. Let's hear one of the movements from Beethoven's Seventh Symphony. I wager some of you will recognize these tunes. Tad, anything more to say about it?
Enjoy.
Okay.
Arcade Mille Falcha, 100,000 welcomes. Jim was a fun uncle. He not only let us do things against our parents' wishes, he encouraged it. He was a rule breaker, an adventurer, and principled in his push for world peace and educating young people. He revered JFK, the mission of the Peace Corps. We'll hear more about his experiences later. And he believed in standing strong for one's beliefs. Jim enjoyed engaging with people to learn something of their story. With all of his wild adventures, Jim was less of a storyteller as he was a motivator and listener. He could draw out from people their own stories. Jim moved about life with a childlike hubris that brought others joy and utter bewilderment. People would watch him and listen to him out of pure curiosity. Jim had magnetism. He did everything in a big way and did so loudly. Perhaps we've all met someone who whispered loudly. Jim didn't whisper, even though he earnestly attempted to whisper. His booming voice was hard to miss. He was loud at his beloved Notre Dame football games, as well as the only one in the theater who, at the conclusion of a performance of Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata, would belt out, "Right on!" In hopes to really bring it home to you, I had this tie made from a pair of his pants. Pants that he wore without irony. My brother David and I rendezvoused with Jim in East Africa to help him sail up the Red Sea, one leg of circumnavigation where single-handed sailors bring aboard help for 24-hour coverage of dangerous shipping lanes. By the time we met there, Jim had been sailing alone for years, facing perilous waters and wrestling his own demons. He had become accustomed to being alone, in a fog, not yet ready to for the give and take required in relationships or commanding a crew. David and I chose to part ways with Jim, and we set sail on another boat. We made the right decision for us, and hopefully for Jim. It was years later that Jim asked what happened in Djibouti. My best assessment was parting ways with his nephews was part of his journey, just as it was part of ours. Jim persisted in his advocacy for world peace until the very end of his life. He and Sharon engaged in protest of the current government regime, walking along with others along Broadway Street in Boulder. He continued to encourage young people to educate themselves and be the best at what they chose to do. Jim took equal interest in full-time academics as he did the staff at his local Subway sandwich shop. In fact, he was so engaging with the staff there, his particular sandwich toppings earned the informal name of a foot-long Uncle Jimmy. I would go there to pick up sandwiches to take to Jim, and they knew exactly how to make an Uncle Jimmy, complete by cutting it into thirds. Jim was in awe of his niece, Johanna. She gave him comforting hope for the future of humanity. She's a wonderful person. We're all lucky to have her here with us today. It'll all be okay with people like her around. Another young woman, Celeste, who he nicknamed Harvard, is here today and will share a reading with us. You can guess where Jim hopes she'll attend university. Sydd liat garef muhugut. Thank you very much for being here.
Hi, everyone. It's good to see you. When I moved Jim here from California 6 years ago, he was sadly leaving behind a cadre of very special friends. Friends he always referred to as buddies, his buddies. One of those buddies, for example, was a realtor who sold his house while he was moving here. The guy just took over everything and made it happen. Another was a fireman, who's on the call today, who, when Jim got stuck after dark, and he couldn't drive his little red VW Bug, he would pick him up in the fire truck, which just gave Jim great joy. He always called the firemen his boys. He sees the firemen in Louisville going by, and he still says, "Oh, they're my boys." Another such friend had been taking him to a mega church on Sundays, and to my knowledge, Jim, an ex-Catholic like me, had no specific religious beliefs, so I was very curious about what it was he loved about this church. He said it was the music. Oh, well, when pressed further, he confessed that the music was so loud and there were so many people singing that he could sing his heart out and nobody would care what it sounded like. He was somewhat indifferent to the message delivered at the church. He told me he just wanted to sing. Well, to say that Jim is tone deaf is an understatement. Years ago, then retired in Santa Cruz, California, Jim joined a community choir at Cabrillo College, a school known for its music program. He loved it, but the choir did not love him. As Jim tells the story, the conductor made a house call a week or so before the scheduled concert to suggest that instead of singing, Jim might like to be the choir's MC for the concert. I thought, what a gracious, gracious way for the conductor to handle that situation. Come to Jim's house and gently invite him into a different role. So Jim accepted it, although he was disappointed to be left out of the concert. He agreed to be master of ceremonies. And with his commanding voice and big personality, the job was perfect for him. He introduced the songs and delivered the usual acknowledgments to the audience. However, when it came time for the choir to sing his beloved Irish song, Danny Boy, Jim abandoned his post, stepped into the front row of the choir, and belted out Danny Boy. Today, in his honor, we will hear Danny Boy sung by our very own wonderful tenor, Ryan Bowman.
Danny boy, the pipes are calling from glen to glen and down the mountain side. The summer's gone and all the roses dying. It's you must go and I must bide. And take ye with my memory ever smiling on a trodden path. I'll tarry by your side, and though you leave behind a silver lining, it's you must go and I must bide. But come ye back when summer's in the meadow, or when the valley's hushed and white with snow. It's I'll be here in sunshine or in shadow. Oh, Danny boy, I love you so. But when ye come and all the flowers are dying, if I am dead, as dead I may well be, you'll come and find the place where I am lying, and kneel and say, Ave there for me, and I shall hear the soft you tread above me, and oh, my grave will ever sweeter be, for you will bend and tell me that you love me. Oh, Danny boy, oh, Danny and I shall sleep in peace until you come to me.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you. My friends, it's time now for community remembrances. From you, the congregation, both here in the room and online. And so, Zoomers, if you wish to speak and offer a community remembrance, type a request in the chat. Our monitor on the Zoom, Karen, will notice your request. And I believe we're going to start with an offering from Matt Ryan, who has been a friend of Jim. So Deborah, are we ready to go with Ryan? Okay.
Okay. I think we're ready. Hi, everybody. My name is Matt Ryan. I'm a retired firefighter and a lifelong resident of the city of Watsonville out here in California we're in the Monterey Bay between Santa Cruz and Monterey. We live in a lovely place. Jim he liked being here. Yeah, Jim, I really have an overwhelming urge to drop a huge F-bomb, but out of respect for the church, I'm not going to do it but that's just how Jim rolled, man. I mean, effing, bitching. Yeah, I can say effing. That's cool. That's, we get it. But, yeah, right on Jim. And in my phone to this day, and I'm never going to erase it, he's under the premise of right on Jim. Okay, we're just such a good soul. I mean, when thank you, Sharon, for sending me the eulogy and everything. And it was amazing what his obituary, the things that man encountered. And like the gentleman said earlier, Jim's that guy. He never told you anything about himself. He just wanted to know how you were doing and what was up. And like, how did you become a fireman? I go, I don't know. I'm Swiss, Italian, and Irish. I go, it's either going to be a mobster or a cop. I didn't want to be a cop, so I became a fireman. You know what I mean? So he laughed, and we always had good laughs, and he always listened so well. The most respectful thing you could do is listen, and he did that, and we had the best times out here. I could just share real quick because I could talk for weeks on this guy. But we're both members. We both knew members in recovery. I guess I'm proud to say I'm a recovering alcoholic, and he's my buddy. He always called me a sponsor. He is way more my sponsor than I was his, but he was a wonderful man. And I go, how long you been sober, Jim? He goes, I don't goddamn know. I go, me either. But, I kept the dates, you know what I mean? And we just had good times. And we'd go to meetings all over the place. He goes, God, people everywhere. I go, Jim, we're all alcoholics. We know everybody everywhere, for Christ's sake. Of course we do, and it was all good. And we'd have lunch and we'd eat. And one day at the Watsonville Fellowship, a friend of ours, Vicky, she goes, Matt, this is after Jim's wife had passed. And she goes, Jim's been kind of down lately. She goes, he really likes that fire department stuff. He always talks about that with you and stuff. He really admires you guys. I go, yeah. He goes, man, do you think you can give him a tour of the place? I'd go, God, I'd be honored to give the guy a tour of the place. So he came down to my station and we toured the place, and he has had all these cool questions and stuff. And ever since that day, every time he loved writing letters. I'm not a letter writer, and he would always write letters. He sent me pictures of fire departments and fire engines from other parts of the world and country. It was just such a cool cat, But this day, we get a call at the station after we're doing some stuff, and we roll out to Cortalitas. It's a little foothill area of our thing. It's a wildland fire. So I go, Jim, we're driving around town, just kind of bebopping around town. He's sitting in the back seat with his headset on and everything, having a good time. And all of a sudden we get the tone. So bing, bing, we're going to a fire, Jim. He goes, right effing on. So we're rolling. We get up to the fire, and it's a big fire. I go, Jim, you're screwed, buddy. He goes, what do you mean, Cap? I go, might as well get comfortable. We're going to be here a while, And he goes, get to work, you son of a bitch. I go, we did. So we went and got to work, and we were there for a couple hours. I finally had to get a SO, sheriff's officer, to take him back to his goddamn little red buggy, and a couple of weeks later, he told me, he goes, kid, I got to tell you, since my wife passed, he goes, that was one of the most spiritual moments I've had in my life, being up there with you guys. I go, Jim, you're always with us, guys. Like right now, he's with us. He's loving it. I mean, what a sweet man. Sharon and I talk. Like I said, we could talk for hours, but it was my honor to be with him when he would come out here. We'd have dinner so often. Everybody's like, who is that guy with Captain Ryan all the time? I go, don't effing worry about it. It's my brother. I go, just mind your own business. If you want to eat, sit down and eat. Otherwise, shut the hell up and get out of here. How about that? And we'd laugh, and he'd always bring his goddamn Hagan ice cream. In fact, that one day I go, I knew it. You're the owner of this goddamn company, aren't you? And he laughed and stuff. But, even in his, I got to wrap this up, I know, but even in his rehabbing, when he had, he had a AAA. If any of you know what an abdominal aortic aneurysm is, most people die before they hit the ground. It's not a common thing to survive this. And Jim just survived it and just kept going. You know, what the hell, kid? I don't know. Give me some ice cream, you know. So that's what we did. So even on my days off and when I was on a different shift, my crew would still stop down there and take them Haagen-Dazs ice cream. That was pretty bitching. And they didn't do that for anybody. So that was really a class act on my guy's part. You know, my boy Johnny Stone and Rich Castillo, that was my crew. And Jim was our fourth firefighter. He's always on board, always ready to go. We had to pre-alerts. I go, let's go, Jim, we're going. And he'd get up there, man. We'd sometimes have to almost throw him in the rig, but he'd go, you know, and he put on his wildland jacket over his goddamn rainbow suspenders. I go, those rainbow suspenders are killing me, bro. I go, you know what that signifies? He goes, I don't know. They make me happy. I go, then fine, you're good. Go ahead, buddy. You know, but he was just a good soul. A good soul, like my mother and father and grandparents. Jim Hagan was salt of the earth. You know, that's what he was. He's just a good soul. And I'm going to miss him, but I'll always have him in my heart. You know, he's up there. I'm a Catholic, so I totally believe we're in heaven. When I did my folks eulogy, I told the priest, I go, you better not be lying about this room you're building for all of us, because I got a lot of people I need to talk to again, Padre. You know what I mean? And Jim got a kick out of that stuff, too. He's just a good soul. I can't say enough good things about him other than I love you, Jim Hagan, Jim Patrick Hagan. My name is Matthew Patrick Ryan. I mean, we're the lucky ones, folks, for knowing people like Jim in our life, and do something nice today for somebody in Jim's honor. You know, if it's as good as flipping them off, that works. You know what I mean? Because, you know, a well-placed F-bomb is pretty appropriate in my book. So if you haven't been told you're loved today, I love you and we love you. And thanks for letting me be part of this. Sharon and Tootie and everybody and all the family, I love you all. Thanks.
Matt, thank you. Thank you very much. All right, if there's anyone in the room here who would like to speak we have a mic, a handheld mic here, and we have a marker on the floor. If you could come to that mark, I'll be down there with you. So if anybody would like to come and speak some words, remembering Jim in the room. Who's going to go first? Robin. Welcome, Robin. There you go.
Okay, stand on the X. I was getting dressed for this and thought I should wear all black since it's a memorial, but I thought maybe wearing the SpongeBob t-shirt would be a little more appropriate for Jim. There's like laughter and rainbows and bubbles and sparkles, so it feels like him. So I'm the garden coordinator at Sister Carmen Community Center, where Jim was volunteering for quite a while. And I would lead volunteers outside, and then I'd come inside on Thursday mornings, and Jim would be there sorting the eggs. And he would say, "Hiya, hat," because he had a nickname for everybody and always had a hat on. And so some of the other nicknames that he made up for people were Patagonia, somebody that wore a Patagonia shirt, and Nursey, who happens to be here, and Boots, and a few other names. And we'd kind of like, hey, what did he call you? You know, what's your nickname? So it was really fun. And if you asked him how he was doing, he would say, pretty good for an old guy. And anyway, we loved having him around, and it was kind of a highlight of my day to go in and talk to him. And he wasn't a member of this church, but because Sharon is, she brought him here a few times, and he would sit usually right in the front and throw in a few right-ons. And my daughter came and visited me once. She doesn't live around here, but she came and visited me, and Jim happened to be there. And he, instead of talking about himself, he talked about me to her. And she still remembers that, you know, and she's like, oh yeah, he's that guy that was like right on, right? You know, and I guess I want to say what I really miss going in on Thursday mornings and not seeing him, because he would just sit there and he was like sorting the eggs, because he wasn't moving around a whole lot, you know, and he wasn't moving really fast, but he always had a group of people around him. And he would get people to do things for him. He'd get somebody to go to him, get him coffee with about 12 sugars in it and send you back if you didn't get enough sugar. But the thing is, what it was like being with him is like, even though he's getting you to do something, you felt happy to do it. You know, it was like a privilege. And I started bringing him flowers from the garden, and he'd take home these bouquets of flowers. And then if I didn't bring him a bouquet, he'd kind of remind me about it. But then when I made it for him, he expressed so much gratitude. He would just be effusive in his gratitude, almost embarrassingly so, that he would tell you how wonderful you are and how beautiful the flowers are and how much it meant to him, and he'd go on and on and on. And when he passed away, I was like, I felt really bereft in that day, and I can't imagine what it's like for the family. But I realized I want to be more like Jim. I want to be like more ask other people their stories, and I want to be more kind, and I want to be more funny. And I already swear a lot, so I think I got that down. But he set such a great example, you know, and I saw him, and maybe somebody else can talk to this from Sister Carmen, but when he wasn't able to drive to get himself there, he made a community of people around him that went and brought him to volunteer, right? So, sorry, I'm talking a lot, but I wanted to say something from, we had a volunteer coordinator who had a lot of contact with Jim, and Kipton wasn't able to be with us. And his nickname was OK instead of Kipton. And he said, I truly did love and respect him. I have many special memories of him during the time he volunteered. It was important for him to volunteer because he loved the social aspect of being with the Thursday morning crew. It brightened his day, and his presence really did bring a smile to those who know him, both his fellow volunteers and staff, as displayed by the fact when he stopped driving to Sister Carmen. One thing he told me all the time was how special the employees of Sister Carmen Community Center are, and that our work and willingness to do what we do with enthusiasm without even thinking about our kindnesses in our work. He really did create a great and special vibe for the organization and the people we serve. And Kipton also said, if there's any elders or retirees at this service, you can stress the importance of how volunteering brightened Jim's day and week. He's not even a volunteer coordinator anymore, and he's still working for us. Jim did the eggs, not a huge deal, and I'm sure he didn't really care about what he was doing. The point is, he got out of the house and was with other people. And he brightened a lot of people's days. Thank you.
Thanks, Robin. Anybody else in the room want to share the mic? Please, come forward. Tell us your name, please, and your relationship with Jim. And then you still want to. Yeah, okay. Here you go.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tom Brannon, and I'm a volunteer at the food bank. And we've heard disparaging comments about Jim's voice today. Well, I used to play the harmonica for Jim, and I'd play Danny Boy, and he'd sing it. And it just seemed to make him so happy. You could see his face just light up. And in addition to the comment that he usually made of right on was far out, okay? He was far out. He was a great guy, and I'm going to miss him.
Thank you.
One final thing. I had a T-shirt that said, you can always tell an Irishman, but you can't tell him much.
Anyone else from the floor? Let us know who you are, please. Here you go.
Hi, I'm Guy Erickson, probably one of Jim's more recent friends. We only met after the Marshall Fire, and we ended up moving into the same apartment building. And he was just so friendly every time we'd pass. And so eventually we started talking and became friends, and I found out he loved music. and we love music as well. So we were going to things like the Louisville Street Fair and Nieces for the blues shows on Wednesdays, and down to Levitt Pavilion in Denver, which is a wonderful place. They do about 50 free shows a year, and it's like Red Rock size. And so he started coming to these concerts with us, because I was telling him about the concerts thinking, hey, he's got a car, he could drive. And then he explained he couldn't drive it, in the dark. And we had extra room in the car. So we got to go to a bunch of different concerts. And every single time he saw a concert, he was like, that was the best concert I ever saw. His enthusiasm was just insane and so infectious. He was a joy to be around at all times. And I really I'll miss him a lot, but I know, and actually I brought a couple of photos from Levitt Pavilion because he was so open with people. He went up, he asked me, we were sitting in the handicap area next to the soundboard. And so he was asking me about what they were doing. And I was like, hey, you can just go up and ask him. And he did. And he ended up talking to the guy, and the guy was like showing him stuff on the stuff. So he's got, they're kind of blurry. Unfortunately, I am not the steadiest photographer. So yeah, Jim was just always an amazing joy to be around. And he'd be like, why do you like me? And I'm like, you're just a lovable guy. And that was the simple truth. He was just innately lovable. So, and I try to carry Jim in my heart to concerts when I go now.
Thank you. Anyone else in the room? Please.
I have to smell the roses first.
Okay.
Jim would have told me.
All right.
My name is Marshall, and I'm a volunteer at Sister Carmen. And I popped in on a Thursday morning because they said they might be light on the crew that day, and I just kept going every Thursday morning because Jim he draws people in, as you said. I'm the guy who made his coffee, who negotiated what a proper amount of coffee was. Almost 10 years to the day, my father's funeral was in Michigan, and my brother found a 1-gallon coffee mug, and I poured a 5-pound bag of sugar into it because my dad loved sugar and coffee as much as Jim did. My nickname is Son of a Bitch. Jim thanked me for the coffee. He looked down and he saw my Ohio State Buckeye socks, and they had just beaten Notre Dame in the national championship. He said, as much as I love you bringing me sugar with a little coffee in it, we've got to figure out something. So I turned my socks inside out the rest of the day. I played Sugar Sugar by Archie for him, and he could not figure out why that had anything to do with him. Thank you to the musicians. That was beautiful. Allegretto Symphony 7, I could hear Jim's spirit, emotions, and energy in there. And I wanted to stand up and scream right on or far out. I remember I was supposed to go to Boulder and volunteer on a Wednesday morning, and something just wasn't right. And I went in, and it was cooking class, and Robin told me that Jim had passed away. And I say, in these tumultuous times, I know two things for sure. I'm where I'm supposed to be, which is at Sister Carmen almost every day. And I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, and I'm volunteering there. With all humility, I accepted their Volunteer of the Year award a few weeks ago, and Jim just inspired me so much, as everybody does at Sister Carmen. He is right on, and he's far out, and I actually brought my Ohio State socks. They're in the car. I rarely shave with a blade, and I did today because Jim talked about how important it is to always look sharp when you go out in public and things like that. He was beloved by everybody, especially the people on Thursday morning, and there were a lot of tears. And I can imagine the loss that you guys are feeling right now. I didn't know about the boating and that. I'm going to go home and listen to Come Sail Away by Styx, because, again, it just... my brother passed away recently. He was a firefighter as well, and just so much of this is resonating with me, and I'm just, happy to be here and to let you guys know I feel your pain, we feel your pain, and he will be missed at Sister Carmen. He definitely was the light of the Thursday morning. He once said, "Why don't you tell me what excellent work I'm doing as I'm cleaning the eggs?" And I said, "I think somebody just did a few minutes ago." But thank you guys. He was just a beautiful man, and I consider myself a better human being for having known him. And you'll be in our thoughts and prayers, I'm sure. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the room? Please come forward. Hi. Don't forget to tell us your name.
Hello, my name is Enzo. I was fond of Jimmy. I always remembered how much he just brought joy to everyone. I would be having a bad day, then we would go and visit him. It would just brighten my mood. I've carried on many of his traditions, including his infamous greeting of flipping people off. He will definitely be missed very much, and I think that's it.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else in the room? Deborah, are there any folks online? One more in the room here. And then, Deborah, I'm not clear. Sharon has something to read, and we're doing online first, and then Sharon.
I think that's right, yes.
Okay. Yeah, there you go.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jasmine. I'm the food bank manager. But yeah, we really appreciated Jim, volunteering on Thursday mornings. It was, a light, to come into, work and be able to see him, of course, with his suspenders, all rainbowed and, great colors, and all that stuff. But, he was, we really appreciate all his support. For what I remember, my nickname was Boots. Because, I would wear boots, all different ones and everything, but he was just, so amazing. It was great seeing him every morning, and, we really appreciate, all the support that he did, especially, he would tell me, hey, I'm an old man, but my hands are good, and, we'll get working. So he was amazing, for doing all the eggs and everything. He would always, I would always see him, coming and getting the coffee. So, we had so much coffee, so I was like, yes, take as much as you need, eat, drink, and all that stuff. So we loved him. So, we're really appreciative, of Jim and everything. So thank you. And, he will really be missed at Sister Carmen. And of course, we still have a picture of him by the computer and everything. So little memory that we have there for our volunteers. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the room? I believe we have some folks online who would like to offer.
Hi, everyone. My name is Chicago, but Jim always called me Chicago from the very first day we met. We've been friends for over 30 years. I first knew Jim through his wife, Carly, who was my boss at West Marine. Jim used to visit our office, and you could always tell the moment he arrived. Our department was upstairs, but we could hear his voice from the front door talking to the receptionist. Coming from Japan, I thought Americans were louder than Japanese people, but Jim was in his own league. He was exceptional. At one point, when I needed a place to stay, Jim and Carly welcomed me into their home for a few weeks. That was such a fun time. Jim shared stories of sailing, medical supply sales days in Canada, teaching days at Watsonville High, and his Peace Corps days with Tootie. Carly, her dad, and I laughed a lot listening to his stories. Later, when I became mom, I would bring my daughters to visit, and Jim always told them, education is the most important thing in life. Now my daughters are grown, and we still laugh about his memories. In fact, my oldest daughter carried that tradition on. At her dinner table, she asked her partner, "What are the most two important words in English?" Then he answers, "Yes, dear." That's Jim's sense of humor living on with the next generation. A couple of years ago, a couple of years before Jim moved to Colorado, my family moved from California to Colorado as well. Since I had to stay behind finishing work in California for 2 weeks, Jim invited me again to stay with him. Those 2 weeks with him and his loving dog Theo were precious, especially a walk on the levee across the street. I recently visited Watsonville again and walked there once more. It was still the same, and it brought back very positive memories. When I heard Sharon helped him move to Colorado to be close to his family, I was very happy for him. It also meant I got to see him more often, which was a gift for me. In recent years, as I got into hiking and mountaineering, Jim encouraged me to keep going after my goals. He especially loved Yosemite and Half Dome and always recommended me to trying it. And for the past 4 years, I've been entering the Half Dome lottery, and one day I'll make it there. And when I get to the top, I know I will hear his voice in my head saying, "Right on, Chicago." Jim was full of energetic talk, encouragement, and laughter. I'm so grateful to have known him. Thank you so much.
Am I to proceed? Oh, okay. Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Pat Green. I had the joy and the pleasure of meeting Jim from his rose garden in his home that he had in Watsonville. Beautiful, beautiful. He started to nickname me Exuberant because I did like a little dance in front of his house over his roses. And so we often met at Applebee's, and he would bring me 3 or 4 beautiful bouquets of roses. Jim and I became very close, very intimate. Jim was my soulmate. I just loved him so much, and I was so shocked that he passed away because we were planning on him coming back to Santa Cruz in June. Um, we would go back and forth. I visited Jim, I think, in Colorado maybe 4 or 5 times. But the memories that we really cherished is he loved steam engine trains. And so we did 3 or 4 different steam engine trains. There was one time he was just determined to get into the caboose, I think, where the engineer was. And he climbed this ladder and squeezed into this room. And he was so happy to do that. But overall, I mean, there was a nickname that I had for him. It's FFSLMI. And so we wrote cards to each other back and forth all the time. And it says FN, oh, wait, FF, effing fetish, stubborn, loudmouth Irishman. That was his nickname. And so I was just going to read something real quick from the end. But where I really, really miss Jim now is football season. We always bet each week, and you can imagine how much money he made because it was always Notre Dame. I was the opposing team. It was Kansas City Chiefs and Buffalo Bills and stuff. So we either bet $1 or $5. And so I don't know how much money Jim made over the bets because I certainly lost a lot of those bets. And so I truly, truly miss him. If you notice my shirt, Jim has a similar shirt, well, exactly the same shirt. And so that was our love for each other. He always journaled, and Sharon was nice enough to send me his last entry, and that was on May 9th. And I believe he passed away the 13th. It says, exuberant call, the elation of my life, really picked me up. I had been thinking that she was dumping me. Then she called. A real wowzer, like her card, the heart. Boy, oh boy, do I ever love that fabulous lady. But he also mentioned clouds covering from the sun makes it very comfortable. A guy just whizzed by on his motorized one wheel. Trees are exploding. Dynamite, exuberant tree just starting. With that, I'll just end. I just know Jim is so passionate, so loving, and so kind, so caring to me. I've never ever will experience that type of love that he shared with me, and in the love that I have for him. But God bless his soul. I miss him every day. We used to talk to each other every day, so there's so much emptiness I have with him being passed away. All right, thank you, everyone.
Ready to go? All right. Well, are we good? All right, good. My name's Mark Dolan, and I'm Jim's cousin. And I'm so glad I attended this. I had the great fortune late in life to meet Jim. And everybody who knows him says he fills a room. Well, most of the people in Colorado would have never known how much he fills a room without his sister. Kind of brought Jim and I together. A little bit of DNA, and we did a little sleuthing, and we knew we were cousins. As soon as I got to speak to Jim, I knew he was my cousin because we kind of understood his background and how he came to be. And he reminded me so much of my deceased dad and an uncle who would fill the room. That uncle he so filled my memories, and Jim was that guy, but he was that uncle 2.0 because he was a person who got joy out of listening. I made it out to Boulder and stayed with Sharon on a weekend when I had a family wedding up in Colorado Springs. It was the best weekend I could ever imagine. And the highlight wasn't the family wedding, because I knew what was going to happen there. What happened in that weekend meeting Jim and hearing the right-ons was just, it's a memory I will keep forever. And everybody on this call got to meet him. And he was a person worth meeting, and it was life-changing. That's all I have, except to thank Sharon for bringing us together.
So we have one more from Sharon, reading someone who's online.
Out there, this is yours. This is from Reggie Coleman in Omaha, Nebraska, Creighton University Medical School. I'm pleased as a fellow Peace Corps member with Jim Hagan in India during the late 1960s, and as myself, Robert Reginald Coleman, to have occasion to turn back the pages and remember more about your esteemed brother Jim. The sad news about his passing felt like the loss of one of my most favorite people in our Peace Corps group. That was 1966, by the way. Jim was such a lively person to interact with, whether to argue politics, religion, or history, or to listen to Bob Dylan singing in our meeting hut and argue about Dylan's voice or his audacious lyrics. or just to hear Jim's extravagant stories, memories, or arguments. Jim was funny, warm, loud, and appealing, and I felt lucky that he, for some reason, enjoyed my company. I enjoyed his thoughts and his brash and energetic sensibility and openness to camaraderie. He and his high-spirited and lovely wife, Tootie, an accomplished RN, had been great workers in their isolated set of villages in the northwest Andhra district of Warangal. The high points of Jim's work life were well-earned and positive. His career in American Hospital Supply was a springboard for rising to become national sales manager for Canada. In his later year, I didn't know about Jim's love of hiking in the Himalayas or his amazing solo sailing across the world's ocean for 4 years, and then his commitments to teaching high school history, counseling marginalized teens, and growing roses for aesthetic pleasure. It thrills me that Jim seems to have made such altruistic and even daring choices to be a learner, anxious to share his discoveries and offering his empathy and personal support. Jim's life was not an easy one, but his pursuits of self-knowledge and sharing describe the character, courage, freedom, and generosity of his later years. It seems Jim found peace and fulfillment in what he'd accomplished in his life. My friend Jimbo, you did good, man. You are already missed. Rest in peace, Reggie.
And certainly, certainly we've seen here, friends, the measure of a human life, the value of a human life through the testimony of those who loved him, were his friends, his family, who continue to love him and forever will. Thank you all for sharing. We have another reading. I'd like to introduce Harvard.
Hi. Do not stand at my grave and weep. I am not there. I do not sleep. I am 1,000 winds that blow. I am the diamond glints on snow. I am the sunlight on ripened grain. I am the gentle autumn rain. When you awaken in the morning's hush, I am the swift, uplifting rush of quiet birds in circled flight. I am the soft stars that shine at night. Do not stand at my grave and cry. I am not there. I did not die.
I'd like to invite David Havas to return to the chalice, please. We extinguish the flame of our chalice, but its spirit continues to burn brightly in the hearts of each of us as a symbol, as a memory, as an embodiment of Jim. My friends, take the spirit of this flame and of Jim with you as you go out into your day and your tomorrow and all your tomorrows. Friends, at the conclusion of our final hymn, I invite guests to remain seated while the immediate family has a chance to leave and convene in the lobby. And then there'll be a receiving line out there, and then there's a wonderful reception in the fellowship hall as well. So let's give the immediate family at the end the time to exit. And now, our service of remembering is over. We say goodbye to Jim and offer yet one more thank you for all he gave us, for being here in this world for over 8 decades. We say goodbye, but we will always remember. Some words from ancient scripture may help us go back out into the world. For you shall go out in joy and be led back in peace. The mountains and the hills before you will burst into song, and all the trees and the field shall clap their hands. My friends, go forward in hope and in peace, remembering always to love one another. Amen. Shalom, salam, namaste, blessed be. And I invite us then to join together in singing one of the favorite hymns of this congregation, Blue Boat Home, in the teal hymnal. It's number 1064. If you're new to this hymn, just try to follow along. There's a lot of page turning in this, but I'm sure you'll get the knack of it. 1064, Blue Boat Home. Please rise in body or in spirit.
Though below me I feel no motion, standing on these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean, still my dry land heart can say, I've been sailing all my life now, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. Sun, my sail, and moon, my rudder, as I ply the starry sea, leaning over the edge in wonder, casting questions into the deep, drifting here with my ship's companions, all we kindred pilgrim souls, making our way by the lights of the heavens in our beautiful blue boat home. I give thanks to the waves upholding me, hail the great winds urging me on, greet the infinite sea before me, sing the sky my sailor song. I was born upon the fathoms, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home.
Blessed be, my friends, and Jim, blessings on the life you have given us. Friends, again, I invite you to resume seats while the family has a chance to convene in the lobby.